There are many different forms of karma. Karma is action and reaction. That's the simplest definition of karma that I believe I can give. And when you apply karma to a specific element, whether it is the blood or the spirit, it doesn't matter. Karma carries the same implication. Some action has been taken and something has resulted from this action. And so karma yoga is the study of action and reaction. Now, when we're specifically talking about blood karma, we are talking about the interaction between karma and the Muladhara. And this can manifest in different ways, depending upon what aspect of the Muladhara we are focusing on. The Muladhara has many facets. Blood is not simply the material of the blood that we associate with the word blood in modern science. Blood is an element. It has an esoteric aspect. It refers to everything that is solidified. So blood karma carries the same degree of complexity that we find in the esoteric presentation of blood. And we're going to now dissect all of these aspects of blood karma so that we can begin to understand how to employ yoga as a means of behaving karmically so that we can achieve a specific outcome in relation to the blood. Let's begin with heritage. Issues of heritage are very important within yoga. The hereditary aspect of practice is something that should never be ignored. Because as I've said many times in the past, we live in the Kali Yuga where blood is the foundation of everything. And so if you ignore issues of heritage, you are undercutting yourself immediately. You are ignoring an extremely important source of information that will allow you to structure your practice in such a way that you're taking advantage of the positive aspects of that which has been inherited, and you are reducing the negative impacts of your heritage. This is extremely important. Most people are not aware of the depth of influence that blood has on their behavior, on their station in life, on their social environment. Blood is extremely powerful. Of course it is, because, as I said, it's the foundation of consciousness in the present age. And so if you're accessing the blood in order to understand how to empower yourself, you need to trace the origin of that element. The origin of that element tells us a lot about what we can do with it. So let's talk about that. How do you trace the origin of that blood? And once you trace the origin, what significance does it carry? The blood that is within you, your DNA, that which makes up your physical form, is a product of karma. Breeding is karma. You are a manifestation of an ancestral line. That is your heritage. And so, all of the decisions that have been made in the life of your ancestors, that has written a tale which is followed from one individual to the next in this line until we reach you. You are the culmination of that story. Now you yourself are also writing lines in that tale. You are contributing to the blood karma of your lineage. There are certain aspects of dharma that are a direct result of the karmic line from the foundation of your bloodline to your present form. The specific aspect of dharma that we associate with the blood is the raw physical expression of dharma. So in an unrefined state, just acting on the bare foundation of consciousness that we all have when we're born, the blood has a very intense impact on your dharma. It is the natural aspect of dharma, the nature as opposed to the nurture. Now, when we're referring to the muladhara aspect of dharma, we're talking about that aspect of nature which is at its purest expression, solidified material form. For example, we have your eye color, the color of your skin, your height, the natural potential for muscle growth, the natural potential for the development of certain physical ailments. These are all aspects of your dharma that are related to that which is explicitly physical. And this structure is karmic. You were born with blood karma. And this blood karma, this story that has been written, that is the story of your DNA. And it gives you your natural foundation. So you have your parents and your parents' parents and their parents going all the way back to the foundation of your being to thank for the natural gifts and the natural weaknesses that you possess. Now we know that in Tantra, one of the goals of practice is to transform every manifestation of weakness into a strength. Just having awareness of your weakness is enough to begin the process of maximizing strength. If I'm aware of the fact, for example, that I am naturally tall, then I can direct myself towards activities that will benefit. I will benefit from my height. Like, for example, I could become a basketball player or something like that. Now, that's a very obvious expression of blood karma. You know, you can see your height. It's a very simple thing to understand. But there are other aspects of the blood that are a bit more subterranean. Like, for example, specific habits or potential to develop habits that are passed down from your mother or your father. An explicit example of this would be something like alcoholism. These traits that lead to a higher propensity for addiction, we can find these traits in bloodlines. And it's not necessary for your mother or your father to exhibit these traits. This is a trait that could be exhibited by your grandparents or even further down the line. If you are aware of the potential for these traits to manifest within you, you can take the necessary steps to prevent that from occurring. Now, very important, becoming aware of a specific behavioral trait in your bloodline can actually be a problem. Because if you are aware of the fact, for example, that your grandfather was an alcoholic, you might start to develop some fear surrounding the potential that you possess to become an alcoholic. And by drawing your awareness to that negative aspect of your blood karma, you might manifest that potential. This happens all the time. Many individuals will replay the mistakes of their ancestors, not because they can't escape these mistakes, but because they choose to focus heavily on those mistakes and they don't take the necessary action, they don't apply the necessary karma yoga to address those mistakes. And this is how a negative trait, a trait that has the potential to reduce the power of the yogin, this is how this trait manifests over many generations. And if it is not dealt with, it may become increasingly potent as it is passed down through the line. You can consider it a distillation process. If your grandfather was physically abusive towards his children, and your parents, they were physically abusive towards you, it's likely that the abuse you receive is even more severe than the abuse that they received. And now there is a propensity for you to do the same to your own children with even greater severity. It's part of a breeding process. And the best way to maximize the effectiveness of a breeding program is through awareness.